Within developmental psychology, they also name it the mean green meme, an overblown form of green thinking. But you might know it better as woke. Where it started with making room for difference, you sometimes see that difference no longer gets tolerated. That a kind of moral code arises in which you can only participate if you speak the right language, uphold the right values, and also take the right positions. Criticism then gets quickly labeled as unsafe, problematic, or even inhuman. It's get demonized, and that causes something very fundamental. People start to adapt rather than develop. They keep their doubts to themselves. They say what's socially acceptable or politically correct, but no longer dare to truly explore what they think or feel. While real psychological growth starts with doubt and self exploration. We see this reflected in many current debates. Take the Israel Palestine conflict. People who try to acknowledge the history and complexity are sometimes immediately labeled as complicit to genocide. Or take climate, for example. You can acknowledge the urgency of the problem, but as soon as you question certain solutions, you sometimes get labeled as a climate denier. And for example, in the transgender debate, people just mention biological differences, for example, in sports and medicine, are quickly accused of denying someone's existence. And what all these examples have in common is that the space for open inquiry and dialogue disappears. People keep quiet or socially conform out of fear of being cancelled or excluded. And that is disastrous for psychological development because growth means facing discomfort, daring to ask questions or exploring paradoxes, even when that clashes with the prevailing morality. On a collective level, this paralysis also works the same way. If a group or society gets stuck in one dominant value system, for example, in a rigid form of green, a counter-reaction often emerges. People who feel unheard start to resist. Think of the rise of the alt-right, conspiracy thinking, or populism. And that is often not regression, but a frustrated reaction to a moral discourse where they don't feel seen. So how do we get out of this? Well, Ken Wilber says something interesting about this. He sees two ways out of this. The first, and he also says it's the hardest, is that green transcends itself. That people with postmodern worldviews become aware of their own blind spots. That they don't just say everyone is equal, but also feel like not everyone is the same, and that's okay. Then space arises for real conversation across value system boundaries. The second, and according to Wilber more likely, is that people will arise with what's called a yellow consciousness, that are in stage yellow. People who can integrate multiple perspectives without moral absolutism, who aren't stuck in one camp but look where someone is in their development, what is needed to grow further. And such people are often quieter, less morally sharp or outspoken, but all the more constructive. They build bridges, create space, and invite real development.